Hello everyone, I'm coming on live today to talk about spirit guides, and the reason why I want to do this is because I have an upcoming free webinar where I will be helping people to connect to their business spirit guides. You might have seen the event on my page, and if you haven't, go and check it out, maybe sign up so that Facebook can remind you when the event is coming up. However, only the people who sign up to my mailing list will receive the link to join the live webinar in Zoom. So watch out for that. I think I've put the link on the event so that you can sign up, but I will also post it under this video, so don't worry. So what are spirit guides? I know that when I started to learn about the spirit world, I was kind of confused between guides, angels, ascended masters. I thought all of this was very confusing, and celestial beings, whatever it is. There's so many different kind of energies around there, and I just wanted to clarify for you. And feel free, if you're watching the replay of this video, feel free to ask questions on this video as comments, and I will come back to them and answer them. But I'm going to try and be as clear as possible about who business guides are. So and the difference with angels, for example. Angels usually have not lived on Earth, so even though their energy is incredible and uplifting, they sometimes don't have much understanding of what it's like to be human. So their advice can be quite airy-fairy. It is amazing. Don't get me wrong, I love angels. I actually live with angels in my house, and I think they're amazing, but they're not very practical. So, for example, in terms of money and business, they might be a little bit, well, actually, I know there's actually angels of money, but nevertheless, it's a different kind of energy. They bring messages, they bring comfort, but they're not, like, they wouldn't be an ideal business strategist. If I was completely honest. I'm always completely honest. I don't like this expression. I don't know why I used it. So business guide, who are they? There are people who have walked the earth, and they're people who have attained a certain level of wisdom, so that when they go back, then they're not perfect though, so that when they go back into the spirit world, part of their job in between lives is to guide people on earth. So when they go back to the spirit world, everybody when they die do an assessment over their entire lives of what they've learned, whether they've stayed on track with their blueprint, all sorts of things. And then what if they've the purpose, oh gosh, I'm getting into such complex ideas here about spirituality, but let's say that every time we come on earth, we come to deepen an aspect and to grow. It's always to grow. So either it's to grow in compassion, it's to grow in kindness, or grow maybe sometimes it's through hardships, because the human mind, generally we grow better in hardships than we grow in happiness, but that's for another Facebook live. So they go back, and once they're in the spirit world, they have a choice to come back in another life, or hi Stephanie, or they can decide to take a pause with their human incarnations and help other people who are already on earth to do what they're doing. And that's what spirit guides do. There's actually all sorts of levels of spirit guides. When I say levels, it's that some of them are low vibe. I often say, and I really believe this, that even Donald Trump has spirit guides. They're just kind of not working for the highest good of everyone. Definitely not. So this is why this concept of spirit guide, you need to look more into it and to be to have discernment. Okay, if you had a guide that wants to come and work with you, if you're at that stage where you can recognize it. But actually, I'm sure most of the people I talk to don't even know how to start. So I'm going to be a little bit more practical with this. So not just, and you shouldn't work with the guide just because they ask you to. And I started a conversation in a business group like half an hour ago that I found fascinating, because I asked, if Steve Jobs asked you to be their human, if they wanted to be your guide, what would you do? And personally, what I did is just told him to get lost, because I didn't want to work with him, because I didn't like him as a human. But what I want you to understand is that once you get to the spirit world, all the human aspects of your personality sort of fall apart. And it is actually my belief that Steve Jobs chose a kind of harsh personality to incarnate because he had a big purpose to fulfill. And then, of course, once you're incarnated, you are enmeshed in the earth energies, and they're pretty low, so it can actually lower your vibration, and you can start to mess up a bit like he did. So a spirit guide is an invisible person, let's put it that way, or someone from the spirit world who would like to work with you. And why would they want to work with you? They want to work with you because there is something that you're doing that's interesting to them. There's something that you're doing on Earth that maybe was linked to what they did when they were on Earth, and they want to be part of the game of taking this topic further, if that makes any sense. So suppose you were an activist, maybe Gandhi would like to work with you. And I know, again, Gandhi is a person that had their flaws and has been criticized since after his death, and I understand why. At the same time, he still has a valid something valid to bring to the table as a spirit guide. And I don't work with Gandhi, so I can't really. Sorry, I can't really comment on this. But you can imagine that if one of your purposes was to bring peace on Earth, he could be a really good counsel. So that's one aspect. I will be talking about all this for the next 4 days. So today I'm talking about what is a spirit guide. Tomorrow I will talk about why would Steve Jobs wants to work with us. The day after tomorrow I'll talk about how do spirit guides help us, and on Friday I will speak to about the question of do spirit guides have to be famous. So we'll look at all these aspects, because basically I have a webinar coming up on Monday, and I would love for you to join me on how to connect with business guides. So I don't know if you still have any questions about business guides. They plant ideas in our head, okay? Or they create signs that most of us miss because we are so distracted. They can create signs for you to follow, and if you follow the guidance through the signs, and obviously if you're psychic, you can actually hear them. This is not the case for me. I am not clairvoyant or clairaudient yet, or at least this is something that for me is still in a very embryonic stage for me. So the way I get the guidance, and that's something I'll expand on the webinar, because I'm actually passionate about teaching people to do this who are in mainstream business, who don't necessarily, I don't think there should be a separation between spirituality and business. And for me, that's one of the passions that I have, is to bring the two together. So you don't have to be psychic, you don't have to be clairvoyant, you don't have to be clairaudient to work with spirit guides. You can do that even if, like me, you're blind and deaf psychically. I'm not, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but compared to other psychics, I have a big disadvantage. At least that's what it seems like, because I'm still doing pretty well. And I will just say this, I know it has nothing to do with spirit guides, but most people's the way the intuition works is that they just know things. That's called claircognizance, and it's one of the gifts that is the longest to hone, and sometimes the one that's can make you feel a bit discouraged. So if that's the case for you, I want to really encourage you and say, just keep practicing, keep trusting, and keep doing it. So spirit guides can work with more than one person, but it depends on how strong their energy is. So I would say that it really depends on how strong their energy is, and a bit like anyone, there's some people who can cope with one child and some people who can cope with 8 kids. So it's a bit the same kind of thing. But in the spirit world, you can be in 2 places at the same time. And I actually have seen this in action when my dad died, because he was at his funeral in Paris, and he's also with me where I live, because I couldn't make it to his funeral. And I know he was at both places at the same time. So that's absolutely possible as well. And in the spirit world, you can go from one place to another like instantly as well. So there's so much more that you can do than we can do at the moment. Although I'm sure things will start to change for us on Earth as the vibe of the planet rises and rises more. So I hope you found my little video interesting. I hope you'll join me next Monday for my webinar on how to connect with your business spirit guides. And when I say business spirit guides, I want to say this: if you're an author, you are in the business of being an author. So the kind of business spirit guides that could work with you, and I've actually connected a lot of my clients with their business guides. So if you're an author, you're in the business of publishing books or getting published, and you are likely to get a published author to come and help you. I have at least 3 in my team. Actually, I did a video on this page probably 2 years ago when I started my coaching, my book coaching, the book coaching side of my business. Sorry, I'm stumbling a bit. I was actually presented with a collective of authors in spirit who called themselves the W's. They wouldn't say anything more at that time. So I said, oh, okay, well, W must stand up for writers. And I was intrigued. And do you know the way I knew they were called the W's is that I was walking at the mall next to where I live, and I saw in a window shop there was this bomber jacket, I think that's what they're called, and it had a big purple W on it. And they made me look at this, because I was like, but who are you? What are you doing? I knew they wanted to work with me, but I wasn't sure what was going on. So I saw this big purple W on a bomber jacket in a window shop, and that's when it clicked. So I guess that's also a way I explain how I get those signs, and I will talk about it in the webinar in much more detail. So yeah, suddenly I realized that I had a collective of authors who worked with me who called themselves the W's, which I found kind of funky, especially since I like violet purple colors. And it's actually only last month, in the months that have past, that I realized 3 of them stood up and gave me their names. So there was Oscar Wilde, W, Virginia Woolf, another W, and Wayne Dyer. And that was funny, because I was like, oh yeah, Wayne Dyer, of course, this is funny. I still don't know why they want to work with me, but I guess I trust things now. And I'm no longer put off by the fact that these are famous people, because even with today's celebrities, they're still normal people. The only thing is they've come into the spotlight. They've done something that's been recognized, but there's probably just as many authors who had great work who weren't published and didn't become famous. So for me, I always look at celebrities as normal people. I actually don't know how they did to cope with the visibility that they had and the scrutiny that they were under. And I sort of admire them for that in a way, because I don't think it's an easy position. And also when you're in the spotlight, people criticize you so much and they pick on you, the smallest flaws. Whereas if you just, remain a mum at home, and I am a mum at home, so this is really no disrespect, then you're kind of in a safe zone. You're not putting yourself out there. You're not doing something that takes that much courage. It takes a lot of courage to be a mum, but not as oh gosh, I'm getting all muddled up here. But anyway, you get the idea. Being in the public eye has its own challenges, and it takes quite a strength of character to be able to cope with it. And I guess you kind of grow into it over time. I don't know. So yeah, but I will be discussing this on Friday, is the question of, do spirit guides have to be famous to work with you or to be of help? And I'm not going to spoil the surprise, because this is going to be a discussion for Friday. For all of you who've joined me live or who are watching this replay, thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me. Just like this video if you've liked it. Do share with people if you think they might be interested. I like to keep very grounded in what I talk about, and so that's for me. One of the things I wanted to say as well is that I very often have arguments with my guides. I tell them off. I complain about what they ask me to do, but at the end of the day, I'm not saying they're always right. I use my discernment and what they give me. I still have a choice. I have the choice to say, I'm not doing this, because there's always more than one way to do things. So, it's not like they're here, they tell you and you have to do. Absolutely not. It's a relationship. Just because you're in a relationship, you have your best friend, when they give you some advice, you don't have to follow it if you don't want to. It's still up to you. So I think that was an important thing I wanted to add at the end of this video, so that people understand that no, you don't have to do everything that your guides ask you to do. There's still free will, and you still have your say in it. It's a co-creation. Okay, so I'm going to leave you for today, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Tomorrow's video is going to be on why would Steve Jobs want to work with us. Bye for now, and I hope you sign up for my webinar. I'd love to see you live, well, sort of live virtually in Zoom. Bye for now.